I've climbed Mount Kilimanjaro twice, and that either makes me crazy or it makes me someone who didn't learn my lesson the first time. And after leading 34 women safely to the roof of Africa, I'm here to tell you some brutal truths that your guiding company probably isn't going to tell you. If you're about to spend $5,000 on your bucket list adventure and to have one of the most amazing experiences that you're going to ever have in the outdoors, buckle up because I'm about to share how you can make standing on that summit a reality. Truth number one, the summit success scam. If you're looking to book your Kilimanjaro climb, you might notice that a lot of Kilimanjaro operators like to boast their summit success rate. They might say something like, oh, we have a 98.4% summit success rate, or we have a 96% summit success rate. And as someone who's spent a lot of time researching tour operators on Kilimanjaro, that all looks good, right? We want to invest our money with a guiding company that is focused on getting us to the summit. But what they don't tell you is how they achieve those high summit success numbers. I have literally seen guides drag clients who weren't able to walk on their own, clients who were sick, and clients that were suffering so much that they really shouldn't have been going any higher up on the mountain. I watched one climber who was climbing with another group collapse at 18,000 feet just below Stella Point. And once I was coming back from the summit, I saw him with two guides on his side. He was barely conscious, and they were dragging him to the summit without any concern for his safety. And personally, I think that a guiding company's high summit success rate is not a badge of honor, but something that we should be a little bit skeptical of. At what cost is the summit worth it? If you're looking to hire a guiding company and you're looking at summit success rates, it's important to actually get on the phone with the guiding company that you're thinking about hiring and to ask them some questions. Ask them about what their altitude sickness protocol is. Ask them what they do to prevent altitude sickness on the climb. Ask them what they do to treat altitude sickness if any climbers start to show any signs and symptoms of altitude sickness. Ask them about their evacuation policies and protocols, and try to get a good feel for how that guiding company conducts themselves on the mountain. Are they concerned with just getting all of their clients to the summit, or are they concerned with getting all of their clients safely to the summit? There's a big difference. If you're looking to climb Mount Kilimanjaro and you don't want to do all that work, it's cool because I do it for you. So join me on a Hike Like a Woman Kilimanjaro climb, and I do all the vetting for you so you don't have to worry about whether or not a guiding company is safe on the mountain, because I only choose the best and safest guiding companies to partner with. The next brutal truth: the mileage on Kilimanjaro is deceptive. I've done the 7-day Machame route twice, and this route on Kilimanjaro is just about 37 miles. And when I think about 37 miles, that mileage doesn't seem too intense, right? That seems like something I could easily do on a long weekend. So before my first climb, I thought 37 miles, that's cute. On the Machame route, you're climbing up over 16,000 feet, and then you're going back down 16,000 feet, all in 7 days. So when you're training for Kilimanjaro, it's important not to just think about mileage when you're training, but to think about training for elevation gain and to spend some time really focusing on uphill training. That's going to make a huge difference during your climb. And if you want to know how I trained for Kilimanjaro the second time, which was so much better than how I trained for my first climb, click that link below and I'll send you some good resources about training. Truth number 3. Fearing altitude sickness makes altitude sickness worse. Altitude sickness is very real and it can be very, very dangerous. And if you've done any research on Kilimanjaro, you know that to be the truth. And on Kilimanjaro, at some point, you'll probably have a little bit of a headache. You might have a little bit of stomach upset. You might not be able to sleep very well. It might be hard to eat. And that's fine. Those are just minor altitude sickness symptoms. But here's the brutal truth. If you fixate on altitude sickness, you're going to feel even worse. A few years ago, I had breast cancer and I had to go through chemotherapy, which was awful. And before every single chemotherapy infusion, I would get sick in the cancer center parking lot before I would even go in for my chemotherapy infusion because I had so much anxiety and stress and nervousness tied to chemotherapy. And I knew that chemotherapy was going to make me sick. So, to prevent all of that stress and anxiety that I felt before a chemotherapy infusion, I had to really focus on meditation, on breathing, and on visualizing how I was going to feel when I was sitting in that chemo chair. If I could visualize myself feeling good and healthy through a chemotherapy infusion, if I could visualize breathing and calming down and relaxing, then I had such an easier time with chemotherapy. On Kilimanjaro, it's easy to feel that same kind of anxiety just because we don't know. We don't know how our bodies are going to feel at 17,000 feet, 18,000 feet, and 19,000 feet until we've been there. On Kilimanjaro, anxiety about altitude is very real. And it can be something that stops you from reaching the summit. It makes sense though, right? You can prevent this. Visualize yourself leaving Barafu and starting your summit push feeling strong and calm and healthy and happy and confident. You can ask ChatGPT to give you a mantra that you can memorize and say to yourself during those moments when you're feeling some anxiety about the altitude. And you can learn to trust your body and trust how your body is feeling. We can't control the mountain. We can't even control how our body is going to feel at altitude, but I think we can control our mind. So to help with altitude, listen to your body, listen to your guides, hike pole pole, slowly, slowly. Try to eat if you can. Try to drink as much water as you can. Relax. Don't be afraid and take it one step at a time. Altitude is not to be feared, but it is to be respected. Brutal truth number 4, you probably won't get a good night's sleep during your entire climb. And that's okay. I used to get so stressed out if I would be on a big adventure, a big backpacking trip, or a big climb, and I would crawl into my tent completely exhausted at the end of the day. I'd get into my sleeping bag, I'd close my eyes, and then I wouldn't be able to sleep. It's like your body knows that you would feel so much better if you could just fall into a deep 8-hour-long slumber, but that is just not the reality. And that's not the reality on Kilimanjaro. On Kilimanjaro, you shouldn't be taking any sleep aids. You might be a little cold. You might be a little hungry. You might not feel super awesome. And chances are you're probably not going to sleep very well. You can do a few things to help. You can bring an eye mask or pull a buff up over your eye or a hat down over your eyes. You can bring earplugs because sometimes it can get a little loud around camp. You could bring some lavender essential oil and try to relax to the scent of lavender. But the truth is, stressing out about not getting good sleep is only going to make you feel more exhausted. What I like to do is just accept the fact that I'm not going to get really good sleep on Kilimanjaro, but really try to embrace the fact that rest, while it's not sleep, it's still better than nothing. You can still lay down and get off of your tired feet. You can still close your eyes. You can still take deep breaths. You can still rest. Now, is rest as good as sleep? No, but it's certainly better than nothing. So don't freak out if you can't sleep on Kilimanjaro. Instead, just be really thankful for the opportunity to lay down, close your eyes, take deep breaths, and rest. Truth number 5. Sometimes it's really hard to let other people do things for you. For me, sometimes it's hard to watch porters navigate the trails of Kilimanjaro, knowing that somewhere on one of their heads is my duffel bag. Sometimes it's hard to watch the porters set up the tents or take down the tents and not be able to pitch in and help them out. Sometimes it's hard knowing that our cooks are working so hard to boil and treat our drinking water, and they're working so hard to cook our food and so hard to serve us, and to just feel a little bit of guilt because all of a sudden we're being taken care of on the mountain. If you're a mom like me, we're used to being the caregivers. We're used to being the one that's helping tie shoelaces and wipe away tears and cook the meals and run the errands. And it's hard to step back and just let somebody else take care of us. When I was on Kilimanjaro on my very first day of my very first climb, I watched a guide crouch down with her heavy backpack on, and she laced up a woman's boots and she tied them in a double knot. And instantly, I felt this sense of guilt. Like, who am I to be on this mountain and to be watching somebody tie somebody else's bootlaces? And I felt guilty about experiencing that kind of service. But what really helped me was to replace that feeling of guilt with that feeling of gratitude and feeling very grateful to be on the mountain, to have the opportunity to climb and to have the opportunity to bring money into a local economy and to have the opportunity to give guides and porters and cooks, all of these people, jobs. And I still wrestle with those feelings of guilt sometimes on Kilimanjaro, but replacing that feeling of guilt with gratitude has been a big step towards understanding the impact that one group of climbers can have on families and entire communities. It's so hard to have other people take care of us, but maybe sometimes we need that. Truth number 6, the wind is relentless on Kilimanjaro. And I live in southeastern Wyoming at a high elevation, and Wyoming is windy, and I'm not afraid of the wind, but it is windy on Kilimanjaro. And I didn't anticipate how much the wind would dry my face out, especially my nose and my lips. A lot of guides on Kilimanjaro are like sunscreen, sunscreen, sunscreen. Just keep applying sunscreen. It's important to have sunscreen, but also to have something on your face that is going to protect against windburn. I like Dermatone. It's like this greasy, balmy stuff. We use it all the time for skiing to prevent windburn and frostbite, but you just slap it all over your face. It's really greasy. It smells really good, but it's only SPF 23, so you have to reapply it a ton. And it's really important to make sure that you're doing something to keep your nose from drying out and your lips from becoming super chappy. Your nose and your lips are going to get really chappy, especially on summit night and after summit night. And we had a lot of bloody noses, a lot of chapped noses and chapped lips. So make sure that you're taking care of your skin on Kilimanjaro and not just being focused on the sun, but also thinking about how you can protect your face and your skin against the wind. Truth number 7, you might have a hard time eating on Kilimanjaro. I know that when I'm here in the US and I go on a big trip, a big hike, it's like the second I get into my car, I'm just like, I need a bacon cheeseburger and onion rings. At altitude, though, things can get a little bit different, and sometimes it is hard to eat at altitude. I have a very sensitive stomach, and I have struggled on both of my climbs getting enough calories into my body. In fact, I bonked hardcore on my summit push this year. You can watch this video to see what happened on summit night. But it is hard to get enough in your tank on Kilimanjaro. And most guiding companies, from what I've seen, do a pretty good job of making sure meals are good and delicious and making sure that you're getting a good amount of carbohydrates and proteins and fiber and all those things that you really need on this climb. But for me, it was really hard to just go into a dining tent and sit in front of a plate of food and eat the food. I struggle with that. So it's going to be hard to eat at altitude. To prevent that for my third climb, I'm finally going to do things right. And I'm going to just take a snack bag for every single day with the minimum amount of calories that I need to sustain my energy on the hike. And I am going to just be filling these bags full of foods that have a lot of caloric density, a lot like ultra runners do when they're prepping for a 100-mile race. That's going to be my strategy. Even if I'm only able to take a few bites of something, it's going to have a whole lot of calories in it for my body. Truth number 8, summit night is exhausting, but also it will be one of the most amazing nights of your entire life. On summit night, usually your guides wake you up and you eat a meal and then you start climbing, sometimes at 11 p.m., sometimes at midnight, sometimes a little bit after, depending on your guide's timeline and how quickly they think you're going to make it to the summit and back down. This year, we started our summit push at midnight. We left Barafu, our final camp for the night, and I was with a group that got to the summit just around 7 a.m. So we were at Stella Point just as the sun was starting to rise. Most people hit the summit between 6 a.m. up until noon the very next day. And when you don't get a lot of sleep and you essentially hike all night long, when you get back to your camp, it might be 8 or 9 or 10 in the morning, you're going to be pretty tired. And both times I've come off the summit, I've been pretty exhausted. But there's some things you can do to help with that exhaustion that you're going to feel after summit night. One of the big things that you can do is to pack all your gear before you even leave camp on summit night, except for a clean pair of clothes, maybe a change of shoes, and maybe like a special snack, a treat that you can eat as a reward for kicking ass on summit night. But you want to think about coming back to Barafu, and then you have a couple hours to rest, to change clothes, and to eat. And then you have to hike another 4 to 6 hours to a different camp. And so you want to treat that time back at Barafu after you come off the summit like a transition point in a triathlon or a transition point in a big race. You want to just make it so easy that you don't have to dig through your duffel bag trying to find a clean pair of socks. And you want to just make sure that everything is kind of staged, set up, and ready to go so that you can preserve as much energy as possible and so that you have time to rest. And just keeping your gear organized and having everything set up and staged before you start your summit attempt is really going to make summit day, the day you come off the mountain, so much easier. And finally, truth number 10, climbing Kilimanjaro doesn't end when you get home. I had no idea that climbing such a big mountain would bring up so many big feelings and big emotions. Last year, when I got home from Kilimanjaro, I was shocked to see how much I kept replaying the climb over and over in my mind, how many conversations I kept replaying, how I got the Jumbo song stuck in my head and it would just play over and over again. And I think that's because on Kilimanjaro, you're walking so slowly for so long that it's like a really intense therapy session. And your mind just has all this time to process what you're doing in the moment, what you've done in the past, who you are, what are your goals, what are you going to be when you grow up, what's your next big adventure. You just have time to think about all these things. And when you come home, you've just processed all of these big feelings, all of these big emotions on this big mountain. And you come home and it's like, okay, I just did that thing. No one understands what it is that I just did. What's my next big thing? Who am I? What did I just do? It took a couple of months for me to really process what went on the mountain and how climbing Kilimanjaro changed me. Now, coming off Kilimanjaro a second time, I feel like I didn't have that powerful life experience, but I was prepared for it. And I prepared the women who climbed with me. I was like, listen, you're going to be a little weird when you get home. You're going to just be trying to process everything that happened on the mountain. You'll be fine. But, call me if you want to talk about it. Call any of us if you want to talk about it. So be prepared to be processing some really big feelings. And one thing that you can do to really help that is to climb Kilimanjaro with a group who understands you, a group who's going to support you, and a group who is not going to say goodbye at the Moshi airport, but a group that's going to continue talking about the trip long after the trip has finished. And one thing that you can do is you can join me for a trip because I offer you that kind of support before the trip, during the trip, and after the trip. So there you go, 10 brutal truths about climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. My goal is not to scare you with this video, but my goal is just to really show you how some of these brutal truths can be scary. But there are things that we can do to actually make climbing Kilimanjaro a lot more fun, a lot easier and just enhance the overall experience that you have on Kilimanjaro. If you're getting ready to climb Kilimanjaro now and you want to know what to pack, go check out this video because I lay out my entire packing list. Thanks. I'll see you next time.
Kilimanjaro, hakuna matata. Hakuna matata. Hakuna matata. Hakuna matata. Hakuna matata.